everyone, this is Bobby again from Tuckasegee Fly Shop, coming to you from the Silva location today. So if you happen to be in Silva, swing by and see us. Happy to help you out in any way we can. Just wanted to do a quick video today. We're going to talk about split shot. It's a pretty simple thing. I think anybody even in conventional fishing probably uses some split shot or some type of weight to get things down depending on where they're fishing or what type of fish they're trying to go after. So something that, I just wanted to touch base on kind of what we use throughout the industry and why we maybe use certain ones. And you may be like, man, I didn't know there was a difference in split shot. There is and there isn't, in a way. So the first in the traditional here, this is like a little 6 compartment or 4 compartment rather thing of split shot. So there's different sizes throughout it. This is lead. This is probably the old standard. Most people use it, things like that. The beauty of lead is you get a lot of weight for the size of the shot. So that's a benefit. You don't have to have a big old huge ball of lead or whatever on there. The small one kind of gets the job done. The downside is it's not great for the environment. If you go to Yellowstone, they don't allow you to fish with lead split shot. They don't allow you to use flies that have lead in them. So you may say, I didn't know a fly had lead in it. There is wire that you can wrap around the hook shank, and then you cover it up with the fly material when you're building a fly. And nowadays, a lot of that stuff doesn't have lead in it, but there still is some made. So you're not allowed to fish those flies. They don't want that stuff to break off if you get caught on something or break a fish off. They don't want the lead in the stream. So that's probably the number one downside to lead is, it's the environmental thing. Actually, tires now, they used to balance tires with lead weights. They don't use lead weights anymore to balance tires. They've changed that up just because of the environmental stuff on it. So still, most of the places in the country you can use lead, but it is something to kind of consider if you're traveling to make sure that you're, using the proper type of split shot for where you're fishing, that it's not against any regulations. So wanted to mention that. The other option to kind of replace the lead is tin split shot. So this is kind of the same thing. It's a compartment with different size shot in it. It is made out of tin, so it's better for the environment. It does actually cost a little more than lead, so you're going to pay for that. I think that's with anything. It seems like that's good for the environment. We always pay a little more for it, but it's definitely a good thing. So if you're going out west of Yellowstone, this is an option you would want to definitely grab when you're here or when you get out there. Make sure you got tin shot. The downside to tin shot is it's lighter. For the size of the piece of shot, it's lighter than lead. So you may have to go up in a size to get the depth control that you want on the flies and stuff. The last one I'm going to talk about is the tungsten soft putty. So this is something, I'm actually going to open this one because it won't go everywhere like the shot will. If I can get it to open. They seal this thing good so it's waterproof. This actually comes in like a block of putty. And I don't know if you can see that really well. So the cool thing about this is you pinch off what you need. So as you can see, I can pinch a little piece off, and that's the piece I'm going to use. So what you do is you actually run this in your finger, in between your finger and your thumb, and you warm it up a little bit, and it becomes pretty malleable. And then you take your tippet and you wrap this around the tippet, or right at the head of the fly, depending on how you're fishing, where you want it. You might tie a surgeon's knot or something in it and put this right on the surgeon's knot even. Some people do that. But then what happens is when you toss this in the water, it cools off and it hardens. And then it's on your line. Now, does it sling off? Yes, all shot will sling off your line if you're casting. I've had lead sling off, I've had tin sling off, I've had the putty sling off. The beautiful part of this that you can't do with the tin or the lead shot unless you buy the bigger ones that have the little wings on the back where you can reopen the lead, this is reusable. So after you finish using this, you actually pull it back off your tippet and just stick it back on your putty block and throw it back in your container here. So the other option that's great for that is, say you put it on your tippet and you cast it out there a few times and you're like, man, it's just not quite deep enough. Well, the downside of using regular shot is you have to usually cut the line, retie stuff, and then put another piece of shot on. This, you can just add to it. So while it's on your line, you can take another piece, get it warm, and stick it to the old piece and adjust your weight really quick. So you can take it up or down in weight depending on what you're trying to do. Just to kind of, I feel like to kind of finish out the video, one thing I try to do is fish an appropriate fly so I don't have to use any of this. I think shot, there is a purpose for it in certain situations, but man, if you can get away without having to use split shot or tungsten putty or tin shot or anything like that, that's the best way to fish. So if you tie flies, say you're tying a girdle bug, or Pat's rubber lugs as some people call it. Tie it in different weights. So if you're tying a coffee color with a bead, get some wrap, lead-free wrap. Wrap the shank of the hook. Put 5 wraps on one, put 10 wraps on one, put 7 wraps on one, just so you have different weights of flies. And then you kind of got to organize your fly box and keep it organized so you know how heavy stuff is. And now you've got flies that technically have weight in them besides the bead head that gives you different depths as you need it throughout the day. You can also buy flies that way. So think of it as certain flies we have here have the hook size may be the same, but the bead is bigger on some of them. So if you get a little bigger bead, you're going to get more weight. So there's advantages to fishing that way where you don't have to add shot all the time. And I think that's the way to try to start fishing. And then as conditions are, you may have to acclimate and use shot or putty to change that, just depending on where you're at. Because as I've told many people that come in the shop, as you move through the river, the condition changes. You take 3 steps up or downstream, your drift just changed. So you may need shot, you may need to take the shot off, depending on where you move to. So kind of keep that in your mind. Easy use, easy fishing, what makes more sense for you, where you're traveling, the regulations, all that comes into play on something just as simple as split shot. Appreciate you watching the video. Give us a call at the shop, 828-488-3333, or stop by our website, tuckflyshop.com. You can email us through there on the contact list. If you got any questions about this, leave a comment or a question on the video. Check us out on our other social media channels. And as always, look forward to seeing you in the shop or on the water.